So one of the very frequently asked questions is, what should a student really focus on if they join an IELTS class a little bit late, or they have very limited time before their exam? So if we just keep in mind IELTS Writing Task 1, which is the subject of this specific workshop, because IELTS is a massive topic, so we'll just rein that in a little bit. Let's assume that they have the principles of the exam under control, okay? Because fundamentally, they must have the principles of the exam under their belts, okay, as they approach the day of the examination. But really, what they need to be doing in those final days or hours is exam practice, okay? Smart exam practice, so timed exam practice. There is still some time to learn some formulaic language or some IELTS-specific lexis. Again, as with all language acquisition, as a teacher, you should be encouraging your students to focus on a few items of lexis. Don't present them with a list of 100 words 2 hours before the exam and say, learn this. No, tell them learn respectively, learn a dramatic increase, and learn a significant decrease. Okay, so give them very smart aims and smart practice, but it's all about, I've used this metaphor before. IELTS is a bit like training for a sporting event. Okay, so what are you going to do in the final moments before you run that race? You're going to be doing your stretching, and in the final days before the race, you're going to be just doing timed practice, time practice, time practice. Okay, so this would be my main piece of advice in answer to that question. Moving on to a second very frequently asked question. This relates to using lesson time to actually practice writing, and whether or not that is a productive use of lesson time. Okay, so my answer would be yes, it is a productive use of lesson time. Okay. What is really important with any course, with any set of lessons, is to set expectations. So we can assume that you've done some kind of either one-to-one needs assessment or a class needs assessment. And as part of that needs assessment, you will have identified that students need to do writing practice. So you can then move to a phase of trying to negotiate a little bit the syllabus with your student or your students. So together with some persuasion on your part, some pushing them in the right direction, you negotiate between you that writing practice is needed, okay? And then you set the expectation that once a week or one in every 4 classes, or of course depends very much on the nature of the course, the frequency, you will be doing writing practice in the class. Okay, so in this way, the expectation is clear in the mind of the student. So first of all, it's negotiated, so they have input into their own learning, so they feel like they're in control. They feel like, well, it was my suggestion, so that's good. I'm happy to do writing in class. And from the teacher's point of view, the expectation is very clear. And why it is important to do writing in class is because timing is everything in IELTS. And can you really trust that your student is timing themselves in the right way when they do their homework? Now, this could be because your student has 3 children, okay? And they are very busy. And it is just simply impossible in the house to time themselves in the right way, to give themselves that space without the distractions of home life. It could be because, and let's speak frankly, your student is a little bit lazy and they don't always do their homework, and you can't really trust that they are going to do it at home. So if you don't do it in class, when on earth are you going to do it? Okay. And if you have students in your class who really, you can really put your hand on your heart and say, no, I know this student always does their homework in the right way. They time themselves. They use IELTS paper. They analyze band descriptors. Oh, I feel a bit bad making them do IELTS writing in class. Give them something else to do. Okay, so while you have your students who need that discipline of the classroom environment to do valuable practice are doing that, do something else with those types of students who perhaps do have better self-study skills. So don't be afraid. I know it's daunting. You feel, I'm being paid to just sit here while they write. No, it's really, really valuable. All right, so the third question that we are going to look at today relates to the use of dictionaries in the classroom environment and whether or not that is counterproductive. So dictionaries are just a way of acquiring new lexis, okay? If you don't know the word, you have to find it from somewhere, and a dictionary is a great place to find it from. But really, it's not about whether or not to allow students to use dictionaries in class, not while they're doing exam practice, but while they are just acquiring their IELTS knowledge. The question really is what you do with that lexis when they have looked it up in the dictionary. This is really key here. So there are lots of things that you can do, but the most important thing is that that language is recorded, okay? It's collected, and it's also checked. Okay, so first of all, you need to encourage good recording techniques for your students. Then you need to collect it. Now, if John has looked up a word, it's very possible that Jane may also benefit from knowing that word. So as a class, collect the language. If you're in a face-to-face context, that could be in a language box. Okay, so you encourage the students to help each other with acquiring lexis. You put it in your language box. Once every couple of lessons, you pull out a word and you ask them to explain. What does increase mean? How would you use this in a sentence? Okay. If you are one-to-one or online, you can do that using asynchronous tools to collect vocabulary. The next thing is that that vocabulary has to be checked. Okay. So there are many new teaching techniques, but there are also some really good old techniques which we shouldn't forget about. What about a spelling test? Okay, this may sound a little bit old school, but spelling tests are great, and students really like them because first of all, they have to learn the spellings, and secondly, many people are quite competitive. If you set this up, if you gamify it, if you set it up like a game, like a challenge, and maybe you bring in some technology, some online quiz technology, it can be really fun to check spelling. And what you do then is you achieve the ultimate goal, which is that student acquires that piece of lexis. The fact that the dictionary was the jumping off point for acquiring that lexis is just great.